Hey, what's up, everybody? Sorry, I wasn't that late. I was like 60 seconds late. It's all good. I'm a little rosy right now. I decided to go on a run, try to jump in the shower real quick before I jumped on here. I figured if I'm going to drink this early on a Sunday, if I'm going to get back to these Sunday live streams, I at least got to earn it. All right, so it was a real quick one. Just ran out there for 15 minutes. That's all the time I had. And then I got home. I ate lunch, showered, and here we are. So anyways, we're going to get down to it today. We've got some Redwood Empire to taste. It's going to be a little bit more of a focused live stream into some of the Thursday night stuff. You know, it can devolve, and that's what they're for. It's just to have fun. But some of these that I'm going to do on Sundays are going to be a little punchier, I hope. I mean, I don't have a cutoff time, but you know, it'd be nice to see my now wife. And only be on here for like an hour and 15 at the maximum. She just got home. She just got her hair cut. So I always like it. I like her short hair. I mean, I like Sarah, however she is, but she looks real cute with short hair. So I can't wait to see her. She just walked in the door. All right. So let me say hello to a few people here before we get going. Let me pour out a drink very quickly. I'm going to start here because we're drinking mostly low proof stuff. I think everything's at 90, which is a great Sunday afternoon proof. I'm going to start with something even lower so I can work up to it. I'm going to start with Evan Williams Single Barrel. I thought that cork was going to break. All right, so I figured at the beginning of this video, not only should I acclimate my palate, but I can give you a couple of quick thoughts on maybe some comparable bottles or budget bottles because, you know, some of these things just are never going to make it to a review or, yeah, I don't know, make it onto another live stream besides right now. So anyways, what's up to Kilco? Julie Likes in the house. Good to see you, Julie. Sugar Kitty. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we're pre or post gaming or if this is the game. I don't know. There's just a lot of whiskey to be consumed pretty much every day at this point. Yeah, happy Sunday to all of you. Cheers. Good to see you. Little, what is this? 86.6 proof Evan Williams bottle, Evan Williams Single Barrel. 86.6. Cheers to all of you. If you're drinking. On the West Coast, it might be a little early for that, although it is Labor Day weekend. So cheers. All right. Julie, married life. It's fine. It's great. You know, I think, oh gosh, I don't have my ring on. I always take it off when I shower. Well, I'm an asshole, but I feel like we've been married all, you know, it already feels like we've been married for so long at this point. It's a nice way to sort of, I don't know, wrap it all up a little bit more neatly and everything like that and get on her health insurance, you know, all the good stuff. But no, it's great. It's great. We're very happy. What's up, Tom? Good to see you. And Lido, your package will be sent out tomorrow. Tom can only stay for a minute in Louisville and heading to dinner. That's awesome, man. Yeah, find something good down there in Louisville. Jay, good to see you. Jared Riley down the street. David Bass. Chris Unifpoke. Kilco makes more. Yeah, we're doing separate taxes still. I haven't even checked in on any of that. I've never been married before, but if I can do those separately, I'm doing those separately because my taxes are a disaster from all the freelance music stuff I do. Now Whiskey Tube, and I might also be doing content management for a cymbal company. So it's a lot of stuff. Daniel already had a couple Bloody Marys. I don't like Bloody Marys, but I'm going to try to get into those a little bit more and cocktails in general. Sarah loves Bloody Marys, but I don't know. Tomato juice, that kind of thing, and a cocktail seems weird to me, but maybe I should give it another go. So anyways, guys, like I said, I'm going to kick off with two very small pours here at the beginning to give you like a quick thought here. The first one is Evan Williams single barrel that I just poured. And the second, which my patrons have already sort of heard about, at least my written thoughts on this, is the Dickel 8-year bourbon, which I'm honestly surprised by this. And I want to confirm how I feel today, or maybe it'll be different. But I'm going to sip these at the very beginning before we get to the Redwood Empires. And kind of give you my thoughts. I do want to Louisville. Yeah. Sorry. I say it, I try to say it the proper way, I don't even know what I was talking about at this point. Oh, I have to do a Patreon giveaway very quickly at the beginning of the stream. So I'll pull up the randomizer here. It'll be super short. I've already got the list typed in. I didn't do my patron giveaway for August. And so I'm going to do it here. So it's live. There's proof of it being live. And I'll just tell my patrons after the fact. But they're going to get two giveaways this month because I forgot August. One is going to be a Weller Antique, the first prize. The second is going to be a Weller Special Reserve. So there's going to be two winners. Because I suck and I didn't get around to it in August since I was out of town. John, health lately, it's okay. The doctor has been beating around the bush. I'm trying to get a CT scan. And then, I ended up leaving for Colorado and I had an appointment right before that. So I'm going to try to call tomorrow or call maybe Tuesday, get another appointment in there. They've kind of been sweeping this under the rug, but this pain is kind of returning in my left abdomen, and I'd like to get it taken care of, So we'll find out. I've been exercising. I've been eating healthier. So yeah, we'll see. I feel like I'm continuing to improve on doing the right things. What's up, Lone Wanderer? Good to see you. Okay. All right. So yeah, Evan Williams single barrel. This is one that I really like the oak profile on. I think mine's, 8 years old? Yeah, 8 years. It's got a little bit of orange marmalade in here. Yeah, just a great oak. A little watery for sure on the nose. Maybe a hint of pepper. Yeah, and it's uneventful, but in a really nice, drinkable way, right? So I think if you find this thing around $25, I'm sure I will do a review on it sometime, but I haven't tasted this in probably 6 months, and I was curious to see how it was. Yeah, I would pick it up for sure, but, for me, this is something that I'm not going to sip. I don't know. It's like an introductory sip for the evening. You know what I mean? I have an idea for a video in my head about what you sip where. Like if you're in a really loud room, I wouldn't sip Evan Williams single barrel. It's too muted. It's too soft. And if you're having all of this sensory overload, this is not something I would get if I'm out hanging out with my friends at a bar. I want something that's got a little more, intensity to it to kind of stand up to the environment you're in. So for me, this is like a relaxing on the couch, beginning of the night type pour, but one that has a little more oak than maybe a traditional $25 bourbon, which is great. Daniel P is hitting us with the Bloody Mary mix links. I might have to check that out or tell Sarah about it. All right. So that's cool. Yeah, the Evan Williams is fine. But I am curious to see, again, right before we get into the Redwood Empire here, what this Dickel Bourbon 8-year is like. So have you guys, let me know if you've tried this 8-year. I feel like it was $30 around here. And I would assume that that's MSRP. At least I hope it's no more than $30. You know, I would hope MSRP might even be like 25, but I'm not sure. But yeah, let me know if you've tried this. It's chill charcoal filtered. Yeah, 90 proof. Daniel says that he can't bring himself to buy this Dickel. Yeah. Tailgate bourbon. What is that, John? Are you talking about the Evan Williams? You know, this 8-year Dickel does have, especially after coming off the Evan Williams, it does still have maybe 10% of the normal amount of minerality that you get in a George Dickel product. But to me, on the nose, like, I'm cool with it. And that's a really off-putting note for me, and I'm still cool with it here. Okay, 21090 says it's $30. Okay, so I'm assuming that's universal and probably MSRP. Cheers to you. Good to see you. It's more mineral than it was last time for me. And that might just be what I'm coming off of here. But, you know, this Dickel bourbon, to me, what it has that many other comparable bourbons in terms of price point and in terms of age, what this thing has is additional leather on the nose and on the palate. At 8 years old, it's the exact same age as this Evan Williams single barrel I just tried. It's slightly higher proof, so maybe that's an unfair comparison in terms of how it, you know, hits the palate. But where the Evan Williams has a lot of oak, yeah, lots of woodiness, very distinct woodiness. The George Dickel has a lot of leather and a little bit of a Cracker Jack note to it. So I think I probably prefer in something at this proof and at this price point and quality level, I probably prefer the oak to the leather. Although the leather component of this is very interesting. It honestly, the George Dickel bourbon here has a more of a classic feel to it. Yeah, it has more of a classic Kentucky feel than any other George Dickel product that I've ever tried. Yes, a hint of minerality, but the vanillas, the caramels, all of it is tending a lot more towards a Kentucky bourbon than I was expecting. Sugar Kitty, yes. It's an 8-year Dickel, not the number 8. So this does specifically say aged 8 years. It's the first product that they've put the word bourbon on. And I think it's a contender as an everyday sipper. Like, for me, maybe not. I just have such disdain and like such an aversion to anything Dickel that I don't think I could. I don't think that I personally could drink this every day, but I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about their go-to $25, $30 bottle at 90 proof, they might enjoy this more than like a Buffalo Trace. Some people might like it more than an Eagle Rare. I know I don't, but it depends on if you want sweetness or if you want something like this, which has more leather, more spice, more of a classic profile as opposed to the Sweet Oak Buffalo Trace profile. So I think it's actually a pretty good product. And if it's representative of what's to come from George Dickel, like if they're trying to rebrand themselves or alter flavor profiles, I think this is a great starting point. It's not going to win any awards in my book, but yeah, not hating on it. I agree with this. I think, at least in this case, because it's younger, it's more obvious to me. Some of the older stuff is really fruity and I don't know. Yeah, fruity, more peanut butter or Cracker Jack, I guess, in some of the older stuff. I saw a Dickel joke, but I'm not going to click on it. Lido traded. I don't know if I would do that trade, Lido, unless the new riff was a store pick. Some of the store picks are amazing, but The traditional single barrel, I don't know. Like, I haven't had great luck with the off-the-shelf ones. But I'm just a sucker for E.H. Taylor. Put it in a tube and I like it. Daniel, I know, right? Yeah, I say that now, and this is going to come away with a double gold and best in class. Oh, I hope it doesn't do that. So, yeah, I think this is an interesting comparison. If you guys have the opportunity to do this, Evan Williams single barrel versus the Dickel bourbon, comparable price point, comparable proof. The Dickel is definitely a little more exciting on the tongue, but the Evan Williams to me has a little bit more of the flavor profile that I like from something around this, category. So let me put these behind me. Put the bottles behind me as well. All right, and let's get to this Redwood Empire tasting now. All right, Tom, I will see you later. Thanks for jumping in, man. So we're going to get into this Redwood Empire flight. We're going to start over here with the Pipe Dream Bourbon. It's going to be our first one. Now, all of these from Redwood Empire, and if you have any additional information that I miss here or anything you want to say about this, any questions that maybe I can answer, maybe not, but anybody else in the chat can answer, please throw them in the chat, and let me know what you guys think of these as we move along here. The first one we're going to start with is the Pipe Dream Bourbon. All of Redwood Empire's stuff, besides, I believe, some of the rye, is MGP sourced, as far as I can tell. I don't know how. Yeah, okay, so distilled in California, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. I actually haven't read the back label of this in a long time. So there's a lot of different stuff going on in here. Cali, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. I did not know that Tennessee was involved. But lots of MGP going on in here. Of course, some of the older stuff that they have, the 12-year, the 14-year haystack needles, some finished, some unfinished. That is certainly all MGP. And, I think recently I've seen quite a bit of, chatter around the Lost Monarch on a lot of Facebook groups, a lot of local bourbon clubs and stuff like that. I'm not entirely sure if maybe there was an uptick in distribution recently where some of these products have now appeared on shelves in other markets, or if people are just suddenly posting more about Redwood Empire. But I've just been seeing a lot of stuff about the Lost Monarch, which to me is the standout in the group, at least, the last time I tried these, it's been many, many months, but the Lost Monarch is clearly the one that has the least amount in it. But I do want to see how all of these are. I typically always recommend the Lost Monarch, but maybe I'm missing something with the bourbon or the rye whiskey here. And as you can see, I do have a batch 2 American whiskey, which is the sort of predecessor to the Lost Monarch. They used to just have these labeled as American whiskeys. And there was a batch 1, a batch 2, and then a couple of special things as well. The 40th anniversary, something for Morton's, I think. Lita wasn't blown away by E.H. Taylor's single barrel, and the mission is my mission in life is to try as many different whiskeys. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm definitely with you on that. And if you can find E.H. Taylor single small batch around you regularly, might not be as big of a deal. But I don't see those on the shelf anymore since I'm not really hunting around. So while that opens up in the glass, I'm going to go ahead and run the randomizer here very quickly. So I'm going to share my screen. This is just for patrons. For those of you who are checking out the stream right now, I do a monthly giveaway on Patreon. I guess this is kind of a plug. It's more just an explanation. I do a monthly giveaway for $10 and $15 tiers. $10 tiers get 1 entry every month. $15 tiers get 2 entries. I run a randomizer on the last day of the month typically, although obviously I missed August. That's why I'm making it up here. And it's usually alternating between a bottle and then a big sample pack. So every other month will alternate. So today, the first prize is a Weller Antique. Second prize is a Weller Special Reserve. So let's see what happens here. Let me try to share my screen. Let's see. Share screen. And we're going to go down here and share. Okay, so I've got the randomizer pulled up. All right. So I'm going to run this. I'm going to run this 8 times. 8 times because August is the 8th month of the year, and the top 2, first is going to get antique, second is going to get special reserves. Here we go. 1. Did that not go? 1. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so Keith Schmidt is the winner of a Weller Antique, and David Babcock, who won last night on Thursday night on that stream, he's getting a Penelope Toasted Barrel and now getting a Weller Special Reserve. Okay, so that's that. Just wanted to take care of that very quickly. Now we'll get back to the Redwood Empire tasting. Cool. Congrats, Keith and David. All right, so yeah, let me know all your thoughts on these as we go along here. I think this has sat out for long enough at this point. So let's check out the Pipe Dream Bourbon on the nose. Lone Wanderer says it's not his favorite at 40. I think it's easily beat. The other two are good. Baby Saz and High West Double Rye might be competitive offerings to the Emerald Giant. Okay, that's good to know. Baby Saz and High West Double Rye. That could be an interesting flight. I agree with this sentiment. Hey, people in other parts of the world enjoy Weller stuff. So, you know. David Babcock said he has so much of it already. He wanted me to choose a different bottle for him from Thursday's giveaway. Now he's won the Weller Special Reserve again, and so maybe he's going to want a sample pack to go along with his stuff, and maybe that Special Reserve will go to third on the list or fourth or something like that. So who knows? All right, Pipe Dream on the nose. Yeah, fairly muted. I'm getting a lot of red fruits coming out of the glass here. This is not a traditional bourbon profile. It's not like caramel heavy. There's good vanilla. There's a lot of red fruits. Yeah, hint of like a distinct caramel note, but it's not a caramel bomb. A nice mixture between like white pepper and cinnamon spice. And not really a ton of oak, maybe just a little bit in the background. But this thing is obviously going to be young at 90 proof. It's going to be probably a little thin on the palate. So let's see what we get here. Cheers. I don't know if it's because, wow. I don't know if it's because I haven't had a lot of bourbon today or just the fact that I rinsed that around and let it sit for a second. That actually had a pretty good spice component to it. And where the mouthfeel lacks here, where the mouthfeel is pretty thin, the spice kind of picked up the slack and made it more interesting, right? And so it ended up having a better balance than I thought it might. Keith, yes. You got the, and Keith, I think if I've obviously got your address already, I believe, as long as that's the same, that package should go out tomorrow. Planning on shipping everything tomorrow. All the other stuff is pretty much packed up at this point. Yeah, I've got to say, I like the contrast in the Pipe Dream right now between red fruits, light red fruits, and spice. I think that's kind of where this thing shines. Second sip really dies off here. Second sip flattens out. Almost had a little George Dickel vibe on the mid palate of that second sip with Pipe Dream. Usually when things are a little bit like when something's a little bit flat in a blend and there's George Dickel involved, I find that the George Dickel really flattens whiskeys out. It kind of tames things down into just this mid-range thing, this middle of the road experience. I find that with Bardstown Discovery 5, like all the pop of the previous batches, whether it was MGP heavy, Barton heavy, some of that Wild Turkey that we presume might be involved. I think that Dickel tames all of that down. Yeah. And just, I don't know, it mutes things, I guess. And that's what's happening in the Pipe Dream on the second sip. First sip was pretty darn good and way better than I expected. Okay, Keith, I got you. Now, cinnamon's really coming out more on the nose here. I'm getting some of the young grain characteristics at this point, like young MGP corn grain. If you guys have had any like 2, 3, 4-year-old MGPs that aren't quite ready to be bottled, you get a little bit of that grain note in here. Yeah, so kind of dies for me. I think at $40, that's a tough sell. This to me is more in that $25 to $30 range. Like that's where it compares to other products that I've had. When I'm thinking about the stuff that I started the stream with back here. Yeah, so this is the Evan Williams. That just has so much more going on for me on the nose. Whereas the Pipe Dream just seems kind of choked off. It's okay. Even the Dickel 8-year has a lot more going on. And those things are, $10 to $15 cheaper. So I would say that the Pipe Dream for me is not a great value. Therefore, I wouldn't recommend it. Although I think for some people, it's going to be an easy sipper. It's going to be something that's not offensive to your palate, and you can just sit down and not think and drink. You wouldn't really want to put the Pipe Dream over ice at 90 proof. Can't imagine that. And it's just not that complex. All right. So that's what I would say about that. I'm going to go ahead and pour out the Emerald Giant Rye and the next two. I want to get these sitting out in their glasses. I bought all of these Redwood Empires many months ago. And as you can see, I've only probably had one sip of the Emerald Giant Rye. And so I feel like I'm pretty inexperienced when it comes to these. And also I feel like I don't have room to really talk about them until I do a deeper dive into these whiskeys. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, get all of these poured here. I'll check the chat in a second, guys. Sarah and I watched District 9 last night. I don't know if anybody's seen that movie. Neil Blomkamp. Neil was on Joe Rogan's podcast recently. And so I found out about him. And, he has a new movie out called Demonic, which we have not seen, but we watched District 9 last night. I had no idea that movie was so freaking amazing. So that was a great one. We're thinking about watching Stillwater maybe tonight, which is a Matt Damon flick. And that one looks pretty good too. Okay. So I got these all poured out. Let's see. Keith is going to have to buy a Weller 12 so I can make poor man's. Yeah, Keith, those are probably pretty expensive in your area, right? Like, unless maybe you have, it sounds like you have a good relationship with some stores with those Magna cigar blends and stuff. But yeah, the poor man's Pappy is definitely probably the best thing you can do with those. I would love to make a poor man's Pappy with an antique store pick, because I tried antique again yesterday. It's just not my thing. I actually water antique down so that it sweetens up a little bit and you get a little more of the oak quality. I think where it sits is a little young and a little hot. Aiden says Demonic is really bad. Yeah, I saw it got bad reviews, so I'm a little worried about that. District 9 was killer last night. And when it opened up with all these like hand shot things and, lots of, like it had that 1980s, 1990s feel to it before the move. Like when it was sort of documentary style before the movie opened up, I was like, I had no idea the movie was going to be shot this way. It was really, really nice. 180 for Weller. Well, that's honestly now with secondary, that's cheap, which is sad, which is very sad. All right, so let's go on to the Emerald Giant Rye now. Let's get the camera focus back. I don't know why my camera has such a hard time. I have the focus set. Maybe it's because I'm using a Sigma lens on a Sony body, but I don't think it should have such a hard time as it does with some of these live streams. Christopher, I think I saw that maybe like a month or two ago on Instagram, something about this, like a label. I can't remember, but I would be very interested about that, especially to see if like the bourbon is any better. If the bottled and bond, if it's like a rye and a bourbon, which honestly I'm not sure. If that's the case, I would love to see what the bourbon ends up being like. And like where they're sourcing it from. If it's going to be, I don't know if they're making their own bourbon. I know they're distilling their own rye, but I don't know about bourbon. So who knows? Pipe Dream isn't stellar. However, I could drink it as a starter as well. And what's up, Bourbon Neophyte? Good to see you. 5-year rye. That one will probably be the one I really try to get after. Yeah, Jared. It's sad though, right? The old Weller 12s, man. I need to pick up like 1 or 2 more of those and just put them in the bunker, like the old William LaRue Weller and Sons, or what is it? Yeah, W.L. Weller and Sons bottlings with the squat bottles. I need to get like 2 more. 2015, I think, is better than 2013. So I want to get a 2015 version of those, put them away, come back, for a special occasion. This Emerald Giant Rye on the nose is great. It's way better than I remembered it. And I think when I purchased this, which was probably in 2020, it might have been that long ago. I think when I purchased this, I was not a big rye drinker. It says here that it's crafted from hand-selected barrels, aged at least 3 years. And they age those barrels in the temperate climate of Northern California. And this is distilled in California and Indiana. So they are mixing MGP rye in here with their own California rye. Keith, I did not see that. Holy shit, that sounds good. Well, and if they're going to stick with the wheated bourbon, then that's probably what Larceny Barrel Proof should be, is that Rebel cask. I'm sure its secondary on that is going to start at like 300. Oh, geez. Yeah, only the old bottles are worth it. Nowadays, the new stuff, it's like if you found it at $40, of course, buy it. It's a great sipper, but it just needs to be bottled at like 100, 105 proof. Wow, this Emerald Giant Rye is so much better than I remember it being. Wow. Hey, that has a really nice creaminess to it. In terms of like texture, that the thing that's standing out to me here right away is texture. Like, you get this creaminess, you get a hint of a textured element in there, like a graininess, but it's really well enveloped by this creamy mouthfeel, and then spice that's sort of punctuating and accenting it. Like, yes, the flavors are great here. The proof, surprisingly, it's drinking over 90 proof for me in some ways, probably because it's a rye whiskey. But what's standing out is just that mouthfeel and that texture. And the second sip does not die off like Pipe Dream. Again, that's got to be because it's a rye whiskey. Wow. Yeah, really nice minty quality to this, but balanced out with a really good sweetness. Nice vanillas, a light caramel in here. It's not dense by any means. Oh, wow. Black pepper is hanging on. The spice is continuing to develop. I would dig it out. This quickly, this could quickly become like an everyday rye whiskey for me. When I talk about everyday ryes, I typically go for Old Forester, but that one is very sweet. You have to like that high malt content. This is a little more traditional, a little more minty. That's good. That is way better than I remember it. Let's see. I'm going to check the chat, guys. Jay says, Weller's non-existent in central Iowa. Jay, shoot me an email. I think I'm out of antique now after the giveaways and stuff. I just randomly the other day came into 3 Weller Antique here in Ohio. But if I'm out and about and I see one, I'm happy to send it to you at cost. Just let me know if you want an antique, or special reserve is even easier to come by. And honestly, I like special reserve better than antique. I know people are going to freak out probably about me saying that. I think it's a better pour. My special reserve is better than my really shitty barrel of Blanton's. So if that tells you anything. Yeah, Lido's, the Weller Reserve is everywhere in Texas. Yeah, here as well. Kevin says, Emerald Giant comes off as a pack of spearmint gum. It was wild. Lost Monarch is great. Pipe Dream is okay. See, I'm not a cigar smoker. I feel like when I do smoke a cigar and have a bourbon, the cigar blows the bourbon out. And maybe I just need someone to take me through what an appropriate pairing would be to try to figure that out. Let me think. Yeah, I feel like Pipe Dream would, for me and my experience, just be blown out by a cigar, but I don't know. Aiden, I don't disagree, but Special Reserve to me actually has more of a comprehensive profile, whereas Antique to me just has a lot of ethanol and youth going on. Yeah, the MGP in it, it's definitely sticking out. Although I would love to see, like, I guess this will probably be in their bottled and bond release of the 5-year, but I'd love to see what their own rye tastes like in this blend, you know, like separate that rye out, taste it, then taste the blend and see where the MGP has picked up where that rye left off, you know. Jim, those bottles are all pretty disturbed about something. Are you talking about the artwork? Yeah, I like it, man. I think it's pretty cool. All right. One more sip here. Wow. Yeah. Highly recommend that Emerald Giant. I know it's around 35, 40 bucks as well, just like the Pipe Dream. I think this thing definitely holds up to the price point. I'm getting some lemon cake on the back end here. Those vanilla elements are mixing with like lemon citrus. You're getting a nice lemon cake quality. Yeah, definitely sweetens up after a few sips. Nothing bad to say about that. I mean, yeah, we could beg for higher proof or something. This is meant to be an everyday rye sipper. It's just that. So that's awesome. Yeah, Jay, Austin, you might have luck. I know Texas sees it a lot. I think some of the more metro areas in Texas get picked over, it seems like, pretty quickly. Although I don't know. I mean, you'd have to talk to somebody that lives there. But yeah, let me know. If you don't find it, I have been out and about a little bit more recently and looking at some of my local stores because Antique has just been sitting down, like literally 2 minutes down the street from me. It sits for a whole week until the next delivery day. So, all right, let's keep going here. Next up, as you can see, my most enjoyed bottle of Redwood Empire is the Lost Monarch, another 90 proofer. This is a blend of bourbon and rye, so it's an American whiskey. I'll read you the back. Lost Monarch is a blend of straight rye whiskeys and straight bourbon whiskeys, aged at least 3 years. Aging our barrels in the temperate climate of NorCal allows for a slow and even extraction of flavor, producing a whiskey of exceptional balance and complexity. So this one, probably because it has so much going on here, I don't like it, but I understand. It doesn't say where it was distilled on the back. It doesn't have a list of states. It just says bottled by Redwood Empire. But if they're using the same sources as Pipe Dream and Emerald Giant, then that's going to be California, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana all together here. Don't know for certain, but that's what I would assume. And yeah, this is usually, like, in some markets, this will be $5 to $10 higher than Pipe Dream and Emerald Giant. Sometimes it's the same price. I think it's just kind of a crapshoot. I think people might know that the Lost Monarch is the favorite and they upcharge it just a bit. But it tends to be the one that people go for the most. Let me check out. Holy shit, you guys. I got lost on the chat here. There we go. Greg says, closest nose and taste to MGP rye I've found. I've had Wilderness Trail one time in a blind flight, and that's it. I just haven't quite gotten into it yet, because the minute that I do get into Wilderness Trail, I'm going to buy one of everything, and that's going to be several $100s. And so I don't want to make that investment yet. Yeah, I totally understand. I totally understand this. And I don't like the day to day and a half aftertaste in my mouth after smoking a cigar. Aiden, I love Russell's 13, but I totally see its shortfalls and why it might not appeal to some people. I've gone back and forth about it. I've settled on the fact that I really like it, but I absolutely do not blame anybody if they mention proof, if they mention balance of flavors being a little flat. I actually find sometimes it can be that way. I just kind of have a soft spot for it. And so I can go both ways on that. I have a very controversial opinion of Russell's 13 probably, which is that after 2 sips, it starts to taste like Dickel without the minerality, like a good George Dickel without the minerality. And I haven't had Blue Note 17 yet to understand what that might be like, but Russell's 13 in my brain gets at that. I've heard this, and I've never had Dickel Rye. Let's see. Yeah, I haven't had Old Rip in a long time, Keith. So I would love to make a direct comparison with that in like a blind flight and see what happens. A little Texas talk for Jay. Let me keep scrolling down on the chat here. Yep. Around $35 is the Lost Monarch in SoCal. Now, guys, I made a poor man's Pappy out of Weller Antique and a Weller 12 old bottle. I didn't make a full bottle of it. I didn't want to use that much of my old bottle, but I did make a couple of 2-ounce blends of that. And I'm telling you what, if you ever come into one of those Weller 12 squat bottles, which are amazing on their own, don't get me wrong. If you do blend it with an antique 60-40, or if you, I guess in a perfect world, blended it with an antique store pick, you would probably get a fantastic poor man's Pappy. And so for me, I don't even know that poor man's Pappy is worth it with a regular Weller 12 anymore. I think I want one of those components to be upgraded, whether it's a antique store pick or old Weller 12, ideally both, but that's a very expensive blend unless it comes out better than some of the old Rip stuff or the Lot B, etc. Yeah, Aiden, I could see why Russell's 13 might come off as thin. It's kind of like other aged Russell's products, where like the 2003 and stuff, where it's a little bit thin but also extremely creamy, which makes it dangerously easy to drink. And sometimes it feels uneventful, even though for me the flavors are what really makes it pop with that creaminess. All right, I think I'm caught up here. Let's see. This is good. Getting into the chat, letting these things sit out in the glass, get a little bit of air. I'm going to do a kind of a down the line side by side at the end of this and just check them all out as a cohesive unit. John asks, thoughts on the Blue Run Golden Rye out tomorrow on Seal Box? No, I have not heard about it from any friends, and I have not I've not had a chance to taste it myself or anything like that. I'm definitely going to be buying 2 of them. I would love to get 4. I'd love to get my parents or Sarah to buy another 2, because I'm curious. What I'm really curious about is with Jim Rutledge doing this, and with High Plains Rye being, his most recent release, which is another rye at 97 proof. I'm curious to see if Blue Run Golden Rye tastes like this. Because I could imagine that if he was sourcing whiskey for J.W. Rutledge, that he might have had that same sort of profile in his head when he was blending the Golden Rye for Blue Run. And maybe these things are similar. Maybe they're coming from similar stocks. I have no idea. But the proofs are very close. The Blue Run is not transparent at all, which is a big knock on the company, which means that we'll never know what's in there. So the fact that this is so transparent, it still doesn't really help us in kind of deducing what's going on with that. But that'll be my big question. Now, if it is just a $100 version of that $55 rye, I'm going to be pissed. I hope it does have some sort of other redeeming quality or exciting quality about it. Aiden, that's interesting. I get a lot of vanilla cream. I get a lot of great oak, some fruitiness. I get a lot of that type of stuff on the Russell's 13. So maybe it was just, I don't know how they blended it, if they did, different sort of batches along the way. I'm not sure. Okay. Cool. So let's get into the Lost Monarch now. I'm going to do a real quick nose here. Pipe Dream. Emerald Giant. And now to the Lost Monarch. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason people like this stuff. This mellows out the spearmint qualities of the Emerald Giant. It retains the sweetness and some of the grainy components of the Pipe Dream. It actually smells like it's a higher proof on the nose than the other two, even though it's the exact same. And it introduces some dark fruits. The vanilla here is definitely a creamier vanilla. Yeah, and there's some ethanol on this, which I usually would not want ethanol, but the fact that it's 90 proof, the ethanol just makes it kicked up a notch, and I think it's great. David, I did thanks for tuning in, man. I just did a drawing for the Patreon giveaway from August, and I was using the antique and the special reserve that you ended up not taking from the last giveaway on that stream, and doing it for a first prize, second prize antique special reserve for patrons. And you won the special reserve. So if you want, instead of the special reserve, I can just throw in like 4 to 6 samples of stuff. If that's more exciting to you than the special reserve. I don't have another comparable like $25 bottle. So Aiden, I would maybe fear that as well. Although I still, in mine, which I like, I still see how it could be interpreted a couple of different ways. The other thing that the Lost Monarch does here, with those added ethanol, added spice notes, additional fruitiness, creamier vanillas, it just has more sweetness to it overall. It's very nice. Damn. Yeah. That's really good. I mean, I think a little bit more proof would help add some body to the mid palate here. This is one of those things that really stings you up front with spice. As soon as that happens, it kind of drops down, and the mid palate takes a second to develop. It takes a second to come back to the same amount of spice at the beginning of the sip. But once you get there, it continues ramping up. So it like hits you, it goes down, and then it surpasses where it was, and it just kind of blossoms on the palate. At the end here, it gets slightly drying. Yeah, slightly drying. A hint of like a stale note in the finish. It's kind of weird. You would never suspect that from the nose. All right, Aiden, see you later, man. Thanks for stopping by. But the dark fruit notes, the sugary sweetness of the Lost Monarch, and the way that it combines the best parts of the Emerald Giant and the Pipe Dream, you're hard-pressed to find something else that's as available as this at the price point for what it wants to be. Like, it doesn't want to be, like, at $40, you could find rare breed in some markets. Sometimes it's up to 50. Sometimes in Kentucky, it's down to 40. Rare breed is meant to be, I believe, in 6 to 10 or 8 to 12 year barrel proof blend, whatever it is. And that's meant to be a barrel proof blend. And it's meant to be intense, knock your socks off, that kind of thing. And at this price point, if you had them side by side, they're just meant for different things. So I don't want to even categorize them the same way. But for what this is supposed to be, which is a well-blended American whiskey at a low sippable proof, you're really hard-pressed to find something else that's going to do what this thing does at $40. Yeah, and the more you nose this, you get just a little hint of woodiness. There's a light sawdust note, a little bit of that oaky quality, like a traditional bourbon oak quality to it, but there is a little bit of that sawdust note as well that I tend to get on some Old Forester barrel strength picks, Booker's, and other young high proof whiskeys. This has that oddly at 90 proof. Huh. Bubblegum. Juicy fruit. Not bubblegum, juicy fruit. There's a juicy fruit note to Lost Monarch. Shoot, it's great. Really great. Now, the interesting comparison for me today, I was going to say tonight, is this Redwood Empire American Whiskey Batch 2. So let me know, everybody that's hanging out right now in the chat, let me know if you've tried the Batch 1 or the Batch 2 of Redwood Empire's American Whiskey. I've never had the Batch 1. I've heard by some people that it's better than Batch 2. I don't know if that's like widely agreed upon or just anecdotal, whatever. But I tend to like Batch 2. I bought a case of this at like $30 a piece. I thought it was a great deal online. That was maybe about a year ago, and I kept one of them, gave the others to friends as gifts and stuff like that, because it was a bottle that in Ohio we've never had. We just, we didn't have Redwood Empire stuff until I think 2020 maybe. I don't think it was here before then. And so we definitely never saw any of the American whiskeys popping up here. So it was a great thing to have. Fundamentally different here on the nose. It smells like a scotch. I don't know why it smells like a scotch, but it does. Christopher M says Lost Monarch, Emerald Giant, and Barrel Dovetail on the menu tonight. That's a good lineup. Barrel Dovetail is not my thing. I am going to revisit it, though. I still have a sample here from, I think Dave Rosas sent me a sample. So I'm going to try that one of these days. I have some barrel reviews on the way. The distillery sent me bourbon batch 28, 29, and Stellum bourbon. And so I need to review those because they were kind enough to send those along. I think 29 is my favorite. The 5-year is better than the 10. I think batch 28 is a 10-year, which clearly has a lot of Dickel in it. And to me, it's just too mineral. But batch 29, if that's the 5 years, a really good one. Seagrass is amazing. It's a crazy ass whiskey, but it's amazing. And then Dovetail for me just never quite did it. Armida is like a no-go. You need the rye. If you're going to do all that crazy finishing stuff, you need the rye whiskey in there to add the spice to balance it. Armida is just not it for me. That's like a cocktail whiskey if you're going to mix up a real fruity beverage. Oh, Christopher, this is not really a good comparison. I can do this at the end of the stream if you want. Pick a batch of Barai, right? I think I have 16, 17, 18, 19. The better comparison is probably to 2019 because Barai is kind of doing this a little bit. I haven't had the 20 or 21 versions because they were distillery only. So I need to get my hands on those to do like a true down the line. But I'll compare it to a 2019 since it's maybe the most recent and true comparison. I am a High West Barai sucker. That's my daily drinker. So I'm going to probably prefer that, but it will be a good comparison to do here. In my head, though, I kind of already know what I think. All right. So American Whiskey Batch 2 from Redwood Empire. I just said on the nose, this thing smells like a scotch. I don't know why. Oh, yeah. There is so much more corn sweetness in Lost Monarch, like distinctly corn sweetness. American Whiskey Batch 2 has like a malty honey character. Oh my gosh. It really smells like it's got a ton of barley in it. The makeup here, it says on the front label, this is 11, 5, and 4-year bourbon blended with 3 and 2-year rye. All right, so young rye And then 11.5 and 4-year bourbon. It does not say state of distillation on the back. And if I recall, yes, here it is. The house distilled rye here, the stuff that they distill themselves, is cellar aged in New American oak, and some of it is finished in wine and port barrels. So they're adding a little of a finish here, a little bit of a finish here, and that says that it adds notes of honey, vanilla, and caramel, and the honey is totally coming through. Yeah, Lido, I could see this, and I haven't dug into my sample. I think I have a 2-ounce sample over there, and I've had just like a little bit off the top. So I need to kind of dig into it a little bit more. For me, seagrass is like, you find someone that doesn't like whiskey, but someone who likes fruity cocktails, and I just say, here is seagrass, you know, and they tend to like it. I think Armida might be the even fruitier and sweeter side of that. But like you're saying, after a meal, I like Armagnac after a meal. I think maybe Armida could be a little bit of a more adventurous side of that. Wow. Now there's a little more ethanol here, a little more youth on the Redwood American Batch 2, but I'm telling you, the honey quality of this, the sort of scotchiness, it's so interesting. There's a little bit of a burnt vanilla, like torched sugar quality to this that I get on some like backbone bourbon picks, which are typically 4 to 5 year MGP, 21% rye. I think this might have something like that in here. Who knows? But it says it does have 4 and 5 year bourbon. If that's MGP, if that's 21%, it's going to have those notes. It's got a torched sugar quality. And there's like a perfumed dark fruit. I don't know if that makes sense, but like you do get these sort of purple, like grape plum type fruits in here, but there's a vibrance, like an effervescence, a perfumed quality to them. Let's go to the palate. And a lot of vanilla here too. Wow. Holy crap. The spice and the mouthfeel of this, well, maybe not the mouthfeel. It's really just the spice. It goes to a whole new level from Lost Monarch. This is intense for a 90 proof. Wow. It does feel maybe a little more young on the ethanol side, but not as young on the grain side. Like if you have a young MGP, I get a lot of corn grain from a young MGP. But I don't always get young. I don't always get a lot of ethanol on a young MGP. It just depends on the proof. At 90 proof, I would say I don't get a lot of ethanol on young MGP. I just get grain. This has not as much grain as the Lost Monarch. Yeah, that's all young grain with a lot of those great notes that we already talked about. Then you go to the American Batch 2. It's more ethanol, less grain. So it's really just a point of preference here. Wow. Damn. I think I probably prefer the American Batch 2 because I like Scotch. It has a little bit of this like homage to a Scotch honey barley quality to it. And I think I would deal with the ethanol on it. Yeah, I don't know. They're both great. They're both so good. Kilco is out of here. He's got to get ready for the 6 p.m. Stream. Totally understand. Thanks for jumping in, man. And I think we're going to be going live together on your stream. I think it's the 26th of September. I need to go and look again. But 26th, I think it's a Sunday at 6 p.m. Lido. So, Lido, you're the one who sent me Armida. Okay. Seagrass is quite nice. Yeah, I just need to revisit the Armida. I need to dig in a little bit deeper and figure it out. I think the sip that I had of it might have been off the top of the sample bottle. I might have just like went for it as opposed to pouring it in a glass and really going after it. So I'll probably throw that up in a patron review, like a whiskey diary review on Patreon, probably like this week. I need to do some of those reviews today and tomorrow to prepare for the week. I'm going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday again. That'll probably be one of them. I think one of the others that I will do, gosh, I put all my bottles away. I had some sitting out here. I just got a bunch of new bottles. So, Yellowstone 2021. That'll probably be on there this week. And a couple of other things. Yeah, I just got so many new bottles. It's silly. David, I'm excited about those samples, man. I can't wait. Okay, so all in all, here's kind of the recap at this point. Redwood Pipe Dream, it's a little flat after the first sip. $40, a little overpriced. You can rewind and check out all the tasting notes and everything like that, because I can't remember all of them. The Emerald Giant is a great minty rye whiskey. It's nicely balanced. I think for what it is, as a 90 proof everyday rye sipper, it drinks more like a 95, 97 proof, something like that. I think it's a great one at $40. Absolutely recommend. But people need to be into that spearmint quality in their rye, almost slightly dill, which is from the MGP in the blend, I would assume. Lost Monarch is, as many people know and have talked about, it's the best one of the bunch in terms of balance, sweetness. It drinks over its proof of 90, which is really nice. And there's a reason that people love it. So Lost Monarch, that's like maybe the biggest recommend of the core lineup. Although if you like rye, if you really like rye, you might want to take the Emerald Giant over the Lost Monarch. And then if you do come across any of these Redwood old bottlings, if you're finding them around $35 to $45, buy them. This is really good. This American Whiskey Batch 2. I don't know about Batch 1, but hey, if it's anything like this, I would drink it all day. Yeah, it's great. That's awesome. So let me check out the chat here. Bourbon Mike says, just got the Yellowstone 2021. Really nice. Yeah, I posted to my patrons a couple days ago that the 2021 is a return to form for Yellowstone's limited editions. I think it is far and away, no, it's not. It's not even fair to compare it to 2020. 2020 can just eat shit. That's how I feel about that release. 2021 is in a league of its own compared to that. I have not had any of the previous releases before 2020, and so I can't speak to what the quality was back then. But the fact that they've introduced 15-year bourbon into the 2021 blend, I don't know where that's sourced from. There's a lot of 15-year stuff going around, that mystery mash bill of 78.5% corn. It's probably that, although who knows? The fact that they've put that in with that 7-year stuff and finished that in whatever cask it was, that red wine cask, it's really good. It's a dark chocolate raspberry. It's just a great example of a nice sippable 101 proof. It's worth the $100 at most. In Ohio, it's $120 MSRP, and that's just a little too much. I don't like it at that price. Sugar Kitty, 100%. 100%. Bourbon Neophyte, yes. Lone Wanderer, I don't have any piggyback, but that does sound like an interesting flight. And I actually don't have High West Double Rye either. I'm sorely lacking on High West besides the Boo Rye. Maybe I should try that out. David Babcock says, we got to open Sam Houston 15 Friday. Love it compared to Calumet 15. We drank so much, I forget which one I like more. For me, Sam Houston 15 is a pretty clear winner there. Calumet gets, it gets really cherry forward. When I reviewed it, I didn't get all the medicinal cherry that people talked about. I let it sit for a little bit, and then it's all medicinal. So Calumet 15, I actually sold my backup of that bottle. I now have a backup of Sam Houston 15 instead. And check this out. Let me pull this down from the top shelf, guys. I'm gonna be trying to purchase more of the Clyde May's age-stated cask strengths. They do like a new, I guess if you want to call it a new vintage every year, I suppose, but they do a new age-stated version every year, and they've been getting older and older. And speaking of sourced Barton juice, Sam Houston and Calumet, Clyde May's cask 13. So this is the newest release, the 13-year cask strength. It does not, I don't believe it does. Whoa. No, I don't think that it gives you where it was distilled on here, but it does. Let's see, distilled and aged in Kentucky. Right, but it doesn't tell you mash bill. It doesn't tell you city in Kentucky. And it was bottled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, which is hilarious. So people might try to think that it's MGP, even though it says Kentucky Straight Bourbon. This, from me, I'm 99% sure this is Barton juice. Like 99%. It smells and tastes just like it, but it tastes like a better version of Barton juice. It's not too oaky. It's almost more on par with like Blue Run 14 in terms of its balance. I like this stuff. The Clyde May's 12 is MGP. Clyde May's 11 is MGP. The Clyde May's 10 that I have is another Kentucky version, and I think that's Heaven Hill. It tastes just like Heaven Hill bourbon. And then the only other one I have is a 6-year. So I'm trying to collect all of the different Clyde May's age-stated cask strengths and find out what they are. I've heard that the 8 or 9-year, whatever it is, might be Willet juice. So that's pretty cool. Daniel, I think it is, man. I really do. Here, let me clear a glass. Let me taste it. I was going to do that High West Burai comparison to Lost Monarch. I just don't think I need to do it. Burai, for me, is a superior product. It's not as spicy. It's not as intense. I like the watered-down, aged MGP thing that's going on there. I just love MGP. So, to me, like, if you find a Burai at $80, buy it immediately. Oh, DC's in the house, man. What's up? The Clyde May's 13, I did pay $180 for this, which is a little overpriced. I think MSRP, I think you're right. I think it's $169.99 for MSRP, which is crazy expensive. And if I do a formal review of this, that will be a humongous factor in that review. Because I don't like how much I paid for this. Okay, guys, sorry, I'm missing the chat here. David, I've not had the 12.3. I have a sample of the 11.5, and I've not really gotten into it too much yet. So I want to try the Cream of Kentucky stuff because I love what Jim Rutledge did with Blue Run, with similar bourbon that he's blending there. If Cream of Kentucky is anything like Blue Run, I'm going to like it. I like the softer side of really old Barton. I think Barton at 14, 15 years gets really oaky. It gets really tannic. I used to love that. And I think recently I've been more on the line of like delicate bourbons. So if the Cream of Kentucky is delicate like Blue Run 14, I'm going to be there for it all day. Let's see, guys. Bourbon Mike. I have not tried some of the regular Clyde May stuff. So they do the Alabama style thing. They talk about how back in the day, I think it was in the 1800s, they used to put apples, or what was it, baked apples, maybe some sort of apples in the barrels themselves and age the whiskey. And so a lot of these labels will describe apple qualities to them. And I'm not saying they're wrong, but when I walk into a store, like I walked into a store in Colorado and the guy was like, I had a Clyde 12 in my hands, the 12-year cask strength. And he goes, hey, that tastes like apples. And it's like, you read the label, you read the label. I think it does taste like it's got an apple quality to it, but it's MGP. The 12-year is MGP, and that has its own distinct thing going on. But I do think that a lot of the Clyde May's stuff is really fantastic. I just haven't had some of the younger bottlings, or more like I guess, more available stuff. And I don't know what they're doing. When they call it Alabama style, I don't know if they're just putting that on the label and doing nothing to the whiskey, or if they are like messing with the whiskey in any way. Because if you look at the labels, let's see. So here's an interesting fact here. Yeah. And I never thought about this until right now. So this is Clyde May's 12 cask strength. Ha. They describe it on the back, orchard fruits. I want to make sure I totally confirm this before I say anything on this stream. So this is not called a straight bourbon whiskey. Okay? Nowhere on the label does this say straight bourbon whiskey. I guess, yes, I guess it does have an apple quality. So they've probably added flavoring to this. Yeah. So based on the whole drama of Templeton Rye, I've got the 10-year here, which I love. Daniel, I know, that's funny. So based on the Templeton Rye drama with all the lawsuits and stuff like that, in the 4- and 6-year versions of Templeton Rye, they add flavoring. All right. And you don't have to call it, I believe this is the law, you don't have to call it a flavored whiskey or whiskey with added blah, blah, blah flavor unless it is more than 2.5% flavoring in the final volume percentage. Okay. And so if you keep it under 2.5% of flavoring, all you have to remove is the distinction that it is a straight rye whiskey. You just call it a rye whiskey. But you don't have to say that it's flavored unless it crosses 2.5. Now Templeton, like I went to the store, I checked in on this because the 10-year is labeled as, well, let's see here, straight rye whiskey, because it is a single barrel 10-year-old whiskey sourced from MGP. That's what this is. And so you can be assured when you buy Templeton 10-year, you're getting legit product. I did not know until right now on this stream that Clyde May's 12, when it's calling itself an Alabama style whiskey, does not call itself a straight whiskey anywhere on the label. And so I have to assume that the apple quality that gets branded so hard for this whiskey is probably coming from less than 2.5% volume of flavor being added. That is a total conjecture. I could be 100% wrong, but it ain't on the label. So I think it's flavoring. I think the expense of trying to mess with barrels, trying to put apples or use an apple brandy finishing barrel, which this doesn't taste finished or double oaked. I think that labor is too much, and I think they're just adding flavoring to this. That's a little bit of a shame for me. I don't have a Clyde May's 11 to compare it to. The 11 has the same like silver and gold, or I guess sort of, I don't know, bronze and black label. The 11 has the exact same label as this. So I would assume that one also, because it is the MGP, they've probably done the same thing to that, whatever they've done to the 12. But let's see, the 13-year, and let me look up here. Yep, and the 10-year, the ones that are with the tan label that are distinctly from Kentucky, they are called a distilled and aged in Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. They are straight bourbons, and they have not been flavored. All right. So that's that. If anyone finds out anything more concrete on that, please let me know, because I'd be very curious to hear about that. That pisses me off, though, because I just bought a backup of Clyde May's 12. And you know what? I do like to drink it. Maybe I'll keep it. Damn, they flavored it. probably flavored it. All right, so let's go into the Clyde May's 13 now. Again, this is hell yeah, Sugar Kitty. That level of pricing absolutely deserves that level of disclosure. I agree. Because, you know, the Clyde May's 12 year is about 120 if you find it at MSRP, which 120 bucks for 12-year cask strength MGP is a fantastic deal. You can't complain about that. The jump from like the 120 that this cost to the 170 that the 13-year cost is kind of crazy. I mean, David, honestly, I like it. I think I probably paid that for my backup in Colorado before I thought about the fact that it could possibly be flavored. Daniel, you're so right, man. So the good time stuff is not flavored, but it is heavily finished. I have 12 of those now. So I actually just got a cognac finished good times. I think it's an older one too, like 7.5 year MGP. That one is amazing. Some of the other ones are just batshit crazy. The toasted vanilla tastes like a homemade milkshake. I don't know. If you're into that, dude, I'll send you some samples of it because I just got some really, really wild ones. I agree, Bourbon Mike. I appreciate that transparency. Yeah, so maybe I've always thought though that the Clyde May's 12 had like a weirdly sugary quality to it. Not even necessarily the apple flavor. It's just the amount of sugar. It tastes like there's sugar added to the bourbon. So maybe that's it, man. Damn it. Yeah, I got 3. I always give. I split off half a bottle. Jesus, I can't talk. I haven't even had that much bourbon. I split off half a bottle of those when I order them to a friend of mine. He's been basically buying 375 milliliters from me for each bottle that I order. And then I want one for myself. And then I want half of one for myself. I want a backup. And I always buy another one in case I want to do a giveaway for it. So that's kind of or I'll sell it at cost again and just recoup my money locally here for someone who didn't pick it up. Toasted vanilla coconut, Jared. That sounds crazy, dude. We need to get back together because I want to know what the coconut influence does to it. I hate coconut, but I think in bourbon I might like it. That's funny. Okay. Okay, back to Clyde May's 13, which I suspect is sourced Barton juice. Keith, hang on. I haven't updated my list in about 3 or 4 weeks, probably. So 250 American whiskeys as of 3 or 4 weeks ago. About 70 scotches. So what's that? 320. So let's call it basically 325 a couple weeks ago. And I would say probably now we're up to 340 or 350. So that's probably the current bottle count. And I would say of those, probably 40 of them are closed. So probably 300 to 310 bottles open here. David, I don't know if I could do I don't know if I can make a comparison off the top of my head. I haven't done them side by side. They're completely different animals. Yeah, the 13. Let me check out the 13 right now. I haven't analytically, tasted this yet. Let me take a look at it right now. I'll pour out some of the 12 and then we'll find out. This stream is going to go a little longer than I thought, but who cares? Who cares? Yeah, Daniel. Just about everything here's open, man. So I'm learning to finally stop opening everything the minute I get it. But yeah. Oh my God. Clyde May's 13. 13. That's really good. I wonder if it's blended. I wonder. Okay. Yeah, this might be blended. I'm not, and you know what? Like my palate could be totally wrong here. It really could. Let's see. I don't really have a dump cup. Let's do this. Let's do this. Yeah. Okay, and let's dump this. I'll put Clyde May's 12 in that glass where the Lost Monarch was. It's sorry, little logistics here. Give me just a second. Got to rinse these glasses. I need to buy more glasses. We've broken 3 or 4 of them in the last couple of weeks. That's going to be for Clyde May's 12. And then I need to clean this one for, I'm going to put Blue Run in this glass. This is so how I am with whiskey. I'm a very impatient person. I'm a little bit ADHD, a little neurotic. And so this like totally is exactly how I am with whiskey when I buy it. All right, let's do this. So Clyde May's 13-year cask strength, presumably at least somewhat sourced from Barton, is at 112 proof. I've got that poured out here. Got a little bit in the glass. Blue Run 14, which is 1 year older, 113 proof. So it's just about the exact same proof. Let's go ahead and pour that here. Okay. My curiosity of this is, one, is the Clyde May's 13 as delicate as Blue Run 14? The reason I wonder that is because the Clyde May's 13 doesn't seem as harsh or in your face as Sam Houston 15, some of these old Barton source products. It doesn't seem to have that amount of harshness to it. And so I want to see if it compares to the delicacy of Blue Run 14, all right, which is notably lighter and more, playful or whatever you want to call it. A better example of that type of a sourced Barton blending. Then once I'm going to compare these, and then I want to figure out whether I think Clyde May's 13 is entirely sourced Barton or if they've blended something else in here. And the reason I think they may have blended something else in here is because when I just tasted it, I got a peanut butter note. And there is never a peanut butter note in Barton bourbon. It just is not there. Yes, you could have outlier barrels, you could whatever, but those peanut notes tend to come from yeast strains, and I don't think that they're going to be using different yeast strains for some of this stuff. So it's all conjecture again, but I've got to trust my palate here. Interesting. So over here, I have the Clyde Mays, all right, in this hand. And over here, I have Blue Run 14. So let's go to Clyde May's 13 first. There's such a strong backbone to this, like a caramel, slightly chocolatey, slightly peanut butter backbone underneath what is the typical cherry oak, Barton profile that you get there at that age. It's amazing. This Clyde Mays is amazing. Okay, so let's go to Blue Run 14. This is much lighter. Yeah, not in terms of proof, in terms of flavor profile. You're getting more orange, more apricot. It's more transparent on the nose. You can really like smell your way through it, if that makes sense. Huh. And Clyde Mays, it's just heavier. It's much heavier. But I do not think, I'm going to do another freaking comparison. I do not think that it's heavy in the way that a Sam Houston product is heavy. So I have to put in a Sam Houston here. In this, it's going to be a 3-way comparison now. And why am I doing this? Because I want to figure out if I think Clyde Mays has added Heaven Hill juice to this 13-year blend or something similar. I don't know what else they would get that's 13 years old that they could source, or at least 13 years old that they could source. Could be that Jim Beam mystery mash bill of 78.5 corn. They could have put that in there, but the youngest stuff ends up being the Barton 13 year, which is clearly in there. Let me grab a Sam Houston product. I think I'm going to grab, well, shit. Let's get it. Let's get a truer. Screw it. We're not going to do Sam Houston. We're going to do Buckner's single barrel because as a single barrel, I know this is Barton juice. And I know it's the exact same age as the Clyde Mays. So this is a great way to compare these. Let's see. So I'm going Mr. Detective on this. This is Clyde. This is Buckner's. Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry, I'm going to look at the chat now, guys. Sorry, I've been in my head right now about all of this. Yeah, David, the Clyde May stuff is super confusing. And this is part of the reason I want to get all of the age-stated cask strengths. Everyone that they've released, I want to get here and taste them side by side, because when I tasted the 10-year cask strength that says it's from Kentucky, if that is not 10-year barrel-proof Heaven Hill, like I would bet my whole collection on it. No, maybe not that much. Half my collection. It just tastes like Heaven Hill 10-year juice. And you know what? They don't disclose whether it's a bourbon, whether it's a ride or wheated bourbon. So this is what it is right here. It could kind of go either way in some cases, because it almost has like a Rebel 10 vibe to it. All right, but I just think I think it's important to be transparent. And when you're not transparent, I think it's important for us to figure out what is in these bottles to the best of our ability. Even if some of it ends up being a guessing game to some degree. So having the Augusta Buckner's 13-year cask strength single barrel here, I know this is a single barrel Barton, Barton distilled product. Yes, the proof is slightly higher. It's at basically 120 proof. I'll water it down just a smidge to try to get it closer to that 112 that we're sitting at for the 13-year Clyde Mays. But I'm not getting that peanut butter note on this. I'm not getting that caramely peanut butter chocolate note on this that I'm getting on the Clyde Mays. And I'm also not getting it on the Blue Run. And those are both almost assuredly 100% Barton juice. I don't know. Barton stuff is so fruity, so cherry. I don't know. I could be overthinking it. It could just be barrel difference, blending difference. But just these are the things we need to keep an eye out for, I think. So I'm going to try the Augusta Buckner's 13. All right. Oh, that fell apart with water. Wow. Weird. Terrible with water. All right. Clyde Mays. That's a damn good bourbon, that Clyde Mays 13. Okay. Definite similarities there, but I'm still getting this extra caramel chocolate peanut butter note on Clyde Mays. And then to the Blue Run 14. I need to take a break for just a second and get some water. My palate is blown. Bourbon Mike, intrigued about the Buckners. Very expensive at 200. I think it's a great pour. Think about other single barrel cask strength 13-year Barton products. The only other one that comes to mind is the 13.5-year that Blue Run released, and those are $750 on secondary. Buckner's has no secondary value, and it's widely available at 200. In Kentucky now, we're seeing stores reducing price to about 180 on the Buckners because they just can't get rid of it. And I think they're scared about holding on to this product. So they want to push it out the door. I like my Buckners that I got, my single barrel. I have a different single barrel that's a slightly higher proof, and we'll see how that compares whenever I open it. But by and large, I think the Buckners is a good thing if you like that profile, and you get a high proof. Otherwise, if you're going to get a lower proof, just get a Sam Houston 15, because that's a great blend. Oh, Total Wine sourced the triple R rye from Redwood Empire, and it's even better. Interesting. I did not know that. That's a good piece of information, though. If I get down to Kentucky to a Total Wine, I'm going to have to pick that up. I'm assuming that's one of their house brands. Aged 4 years in oak barrels, finished with a hint of apple, great over ice, but a solid choice for mixing a cocktail. Yeah, finished with a hint of apple. That's so funny. What they mean is probably 2% volume flavoring. Okay. Now to the Blue Run. That Blue Run is so soft and delicate. Leathery, light fruits. I like it a lot. Maybe the Clyde Mays does not have something else blended in. I don't know. Hard to tell. But I do get something extra in there compared to these other Barton source products. So I'm going to stop nerding out now. Moral of the story, this was never about Clyde May's 13. It was all about Clyde May's 12 and the fact that this is probably flavored to a very small degree, and that's probably why they do not disclose anything on the label or call it a straight whiskey. So that's that. Daniel, no, I have not tried it yet. I apologize. I have something that I want to do. I have so many videos I want to make. And I'm kind of crippled by this. I like organization. I like having series of things and categories. And I have one where I want to, I don't know what I want to call it, but basically like examining batch or barrel consistency between products. So for Sam Houston 15, I have a bunch of samples now of that. And I want to do just a down the line comparison of Sam 15s and see how they compare to each other. Because Keith sent me a sample that he says he does not like. It's too oaky, too tannic. And I'm curious to put it next to mine. And in your case, you sent me a Buckner sample and I have a different single barrel that I need to open. I want to put those three side by side. I have a couple other products like that I want to do where I can do a comparison and just kind of give like a survey or an overview of these things. I have a similar thing that I want to do with store picks versus shelfers. Yeah, lots of different things. And I need to kind of tackle one at a time instead of starting 10 different new series. And that's been my issue behind the scenes here. I get so in my own head. But at the end of the day, Clyde May's 13 cask strength at $170 is super steep. It depends on your budget. If you spend $170 on a whiskey regularly and you don't have an issue with that, then yeah, pick this thing up because I think it's really good. Yeah, it's peanut butter. There's peanut butter in there, I'm telling you. But I'm glad that I bought this, even though it was very expensive, similar to the Blue Run. Like, I know we bitch about price all the time. We bitch about sourcing and jacking up price. I'm glad I bought it. The same way that I'm glad I bought Augusta Buckner's 13. It is what it is, and whiskey is not going to get any cheaper. So Clyde May's 13 to me, even the 10-year that is also Kentucky sourced, it's a great bottle. It's totally different than the 13 because I think it's from Heaven Hill or something similar. Whereas this 12 is certainly MGP, pretty assuredly has some degree of flavoring to it. That puts me off in my head, but not on the taste. The taste is still really good. Okay, guys, I'm going to bounce. I'm out of here. Been on for like 90 minutes. It was a fun stream. It devolved at the end, and I love that it devolved. You know, whenever you plan for only an hour, it goes longer. When you plan for 2 hours, and you feel like you ran out of stuff to do. So, you know, there we have it. I'm going to jump. What's next here for the channel? What day is it? I think it's September 5th. I do not have a stream this coming Thursday because I have an orchestra rehearsal. So I will have a stream next Sunday. That will probably be another stream like this where I have like a very focused goal for the first hour, and maybe it will devolve at the end. I'm thinking about doing maybe the Michter's lineup or something similar to that. Just keep an eye out. I'll figure out what it is that I'm going to be doing that day. It could be a 1792 flight as well. I've been curious about diving back into 1792. What else? Videos will be coming out this week again, finally. Sorry about the delay. Patrons written reviews will start up again tomorrow. Same thing. Mondays will be for everybody. Wednesday, Fridays only for the $15 tier that go into my whiskey diary. Yeah, more stuff's on the way. That's it. Sealbox is dropping the Blue Run Golden Ride tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, I believe. Check that out if you're into that kind of thing. It's $110 a piece, I think. Cheers, guys. I'm going to end with a sip of Blue Run 14. So adios, and I will see you next time here on Drums and Drams.